start the stream as well. Seems that it should be fine. I think YouTube has around a 10-second delay, but it shouldn't bother us since it shows, yeah, we're live.
Yeah, I can see myself.
Really?
Yep.
That's fine. All right. Seems everything is fine. Yep. And yep. All right. We typed in what we want to talk about initially, but I have usually the first thing that I would like to know from my guest. So what drives you to Latvia?
I'm actually going to Lithuania, but I'm going by bus from Tallinn, Estonia, and Riga was like just in the way. Plus, I have a friend in here, so I figured I might. My friend couldn't make it, but I figured I would come visit for a day because I don't know, it's interesting. And like, yeah, the original plan was to just go to Lithuania, hang out with my friends, and yeah, and it just kind of came to me that I could spend a day in Latvia too.
So what do you know about Latvia? Before you came to here, what do you know? But what did you know?
I know it's quite Russian.
Quite Russian?
Yeah, it's very, very Russianish feel.
Post-Soviet, right?
What?
Just a post-Soviet feel. Yeah. Have you been to Lithuania as well?
No.
Oh, so it will be your first time?
Yeah, this is my first time both in Latvia and Lithuania.
Yeah, because I would guess that you would have the same feeling there as well.
Probably. I'd imagine it's very similar.
Have you been to Estonia as well?
I had been in Tallinn a couple of times, but that's it.
And what was your impression there?
I mean, Tallinn is quite. It's very, very Western. It's like made for consumers pretty much. At least like the Bay Area and the middle of Tallinn. So it's not that different from Finland. It's very similar.
So now you've been one day in Latvia. Did you get any new information about Latvia, or does it still seem the same as before you came here? Or at least Riga.
I at least like now I know that people are not very happy in these countries. Like,
what do you mean?
When I walked around the city, like it seems like mostly the happy people are the tourists, and when I went to the shops and everything, everybody was kind of like, I don't know, kind of like a little depressed. They didn't seem very happy, and I thought it was weird because everybody always says that Finland like is the country of emotionless people and stuff, and we don't show emotion. But
that's the stereotype. You are all chill.
It is, but in my opinion, it's at least the same here. And like, yeah, maybe it's only because like I speak English and people don't react to English-speaking people too well here.
Well, it wouldn't be I suppose there wouldn't be any difference for any other language.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any countries or places that you have visited there where there's a lot more happiness when it comes to people in the grocery store or other places?
I don't know. I haven't been outside Europe, at least. I haven't been to too many countries. I've been to Hungary. I was in Germany last year, and you probably
fit right into Germany, right?
Is it because I'm very white?
Yep, you just look really like a blonde German dude.
Hitler's dream, pretty much. Hitler's dream, pretty much.
Well, I guess all the Germanic-speaking people would be.
Yeah.
Isn't it the stereotype about Swedish people that they're all just blonde, tall, and
they
blue-eyed?
are, but like Hitler's dream was supposed to be like the Aryan race, right? And they're like blonde with blonde, tall, blue eyes, and
sure.
So yeah, but I mean, no, I didn't fit right in there. But they were it seemed like people were more happy in there than they are in here. That's what it seemed like, at least. But I don't know. I mean, you gotta remember that I've only been here for a day, so the picture that I've got is very limited.
Did you do any research before you came to Latvia?
No.
And so, what was your source of information about Latvia before you came here? Just people you talked to, or any, I don't know, do you have any information going around? You probably don't have any ads about Latvia, right? No advertising.
No. Yeah, just the fact that it's a Baltic country.
Mm-hmm.
It's very close to Russia, and I have a few friends here. That's like my only source of information about Latvia. So no, I didn't do any research when I planned coming here.
So except the logistics of getting here, no prior research. Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. So would you actually be inclined in any case to go, let's say, on YouTube and search for a country where if you want to go somewhere, or have you done that any time?
No. The only reason I would want to do that if I was like trying to plan activities, but like I'd rather just go to the place and see for myself, like what's it about.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be like kind of like spoiling it in a way if you just look everything up online first. But
is it
just personal preference, I guess?
So you would just go and see for yourself. All right.
You gotta have the element of surprise. I like it, at least.
Have you ever considered that all the places that have, let's say, internet, cable TV, and stuff like that they are becoming more and more similar?
Yeah,
in a way.
They are. I mean, yeah, it's just globalization. But I don't think it's a bad thing. Some people think that like unique cultures are a must or a valuable thing. I don't agree with that. I think it's better to have like everybody kind of like similar, so they get along better. In general, everybody's happier and stuff. I think that's a good thing. So yeah, it doesn't bother me that places are becoming more and more similar.
All right. Because I always ask people from the north, wouldn't you be more inclined to actually go live in the south?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, when everything's so, let's say, comprehensively available, you could take your laptop, go anywhere where there's internet, and you would actually basically do the same. You can have the same information, entertainment, and you would be just in a different place geographically. So and nowadays, what do actually Finnish people like when it comes to vacationing? Because I would imagine Finland is just a cold country throughout all of the year.
It's not cold all of the year. It's
so what's your summer like, for instance, now?
Well,
in July.
It depends. Like when you live in Finland, you learn to appreciate even like 15 degrees. So it's not terrible, but it is way colder than in south, of course. But like, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not. It's not like 10 degrees throughout the whole summer. That's not the reality, and sometimes it even hits plus 30 and stuff.
But seems to me that you mean it that it rarely hits 30.
Sometimes, yeah. But there have been summers when it's never been like past 25.
So what was the temperature when you left?
It was around 20, I think.
Oh, that's decent.
Yeah, it's decent.
So does it mean that you have the summers similar to ours? In a way, June.
We have quite a similar weather, but I think like whenever I've been talking to my Lithuanian friends, it seems that the weather is very often quite similar. And you have cold winters too, and we have those too. So
probably you more.
Just a little bit, but not too much.
So the degrees.
Maybe in the northern Finland, it's a lot worse. But I live in the south, so I don't really know about that so much.
What's your place called?
I live in Helsinki.
Oh.
Yeah. I used to live in Vihti, which is 550 kilometers from Helsinki. 50 kilometers north, but yeah, it's about the same.
So you live with your family in Helsinki?
Nah, I live alone. I moved alone 1 year ago. About exactly 1 year ago.
Because of studies?
No, I just don't like living with people too much. At least didn't like at that time. But I've been enjoying living alone. It's
well, but do you mean that you are paying for your apartment or
yeah.
working?
No, I've been unemployed for a year. I just didn't know what to do. So in Finland we get social benefits.
Well, wait a second, but how does that work? You wanted to move to Helsinki, but you didn't. You moved to Helsinki and you didn't get straight away a job. You just started living in Helsinki?
Yeah, because the government pays your social benefits. They pay your rent. They pay you money for food and stuff.
Well, first of all,
as long as you're looking for work on the paper.
Well, first of all, it sounds really, really badass if it's really like that. But wouldn't you have to do anything prior to that? Let's say when you want to move to Helsinki, you would need to have, I don't know, let's say 1 year prior experience regarding some work, or that you have some taxes paid for you or something like that.
No, you don't.
Sounds impossible.
All you
Come on,
need
man.
is. All
Sounds
you need
impossible.
to do is. Yeah, it does. And it
So
is quite insane.
give me the backstory then. You lived with your family in that 50 kilometers north town, right? So
Yeah.
the one day you decided, all right, I would like to actually move to Helsinki. So what did your family say?
Nothing really.
They didn't say, oh, it's too expensive, no, or something like that.
No, my brother had lived in Helsinki for 2 years or something before I moved. So
Yeah.
it wasn't anything new. And like, yeah.
So what did you do when you lived in your old town? Were you studying?
Right before I moved out, I graduated high school.
So all right, so you graduated,
Mhm.
decided to move to Helsinki, and then it's just no real attachment to any work, no real attachment to any obligations regarding some taxes or anything.
No, all you have to.
There has to be some form of.
There is. You need. First of all, you need
Sounds
to
like
be.
utopia.
You need to be. What's it called? You need to be Finnish. You need to have Finnish nationality, and
All right.
then also you have to be looking for work.
Which means that you are just registered in
Exactly. You
secret.
don't actually have to, you don't have to actively look for a job and actually try to get a job, but you just have to be like looking for work on the paper. That's
But it would
all
mean
is.
that actually you are registered for that you are looking for work, and if the agency sees some vacancy that you could actually fill,
Yeah, then you have to send your application there, but you don't have to accept it, as far as I know. Even if you get accepted into the job, you don't have to accept it.
and so far you haven't got any.
I have. I sent like 2 or 3 application during the whole year.
And you just declined them, and that's
No,
it.
they didn't accept me because
Ah,
the agency, they suggest the job to like hundreds of people looking for work because they're like really simple jobs. So the chance of you actually getting the job is very, 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 very slim.
in Helsinki you probably have a big job market, right?
Yeah.
So what are those jobs that you had applied for? Some specific niche?
Nah, just very simple. One was like a helper in a zoo.
Come on, it
gardener.
doesn't seem that you are looking to be just a regular worker. It doesn't
No.
seem like it.
No, I'm not.
So what would be your job that you would actually be excited about?
excited about. I don't know.
Well, I
about
mean, interested to the point you would be willing to have some commitment to it for at least an amount of time.
any job really. Like,
Come on, don't
if
lie.
if
You don't need to lie here.
if I
We're all between friends. So
Nah.
no lie.
Nah, listen. If I actually accepted a job,
Yep.
I would try my hardest in there, because I don't think it's very reasonable to accept the job and then not try your hardest just because you have these what are they called, prejudices. So if I got a job, I would try my hardest, at least at first, to see what it's like. And if I like it, then I keep going. And if I don't, then I don't know what I would do.
That would be an experimentation phase, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So do you have any, let's say, tasks in mind that you already know that you would be willing to do because they seem exciting? Because an assistant in a zoo, come on, doesn't sound that much excitement.
Yeah, it isn't too exciting.
Smelling like elephant doo-doo all day.
Yeah. I don't know. There's like, I don't really have a dream job, to be honest.
Well, why wouldn't you have a dream job? But in a sense, you probably know what you like and what you don't like in a way, as in extremes. I mean, you like to travel, I guess. You like
Yeah,
you like to have
traveling's
friends in
interesting.
Lithuania and elsewhere.
What?
You like to have friends in Lithuania and elsewhere, outside of Finland. See, that's already two distinguishing tasks.
Yeah. But I don't know. I haven't. Well,
Is this a sort of what's it called, a gap year for you? You know what that is?
it was kind of a gap here. Right now, I started my military service. We have that in Finland, mandatory military service.
Oh,
I started it a month ago.
why would you have a mandatory service in Finland?
I know, right?
So is it for 2 years?
No, the minimum is 6 months
Wow.
if you do the actual military service, but you have an option to work for the government for a year,
Mhm.
and I picked that option because military just seems like a horrible place.
In Finland?
Yeah,
Why?
it seems like you don't really have to have room to think for yourself in there. Think by yourself. And I don't think I could stand that for a whole 6 months. So I just figured I would get 11 months. It's 1 month of training, then 11 months of civil job for the government. So,
But that's related to the military then, right? Or it's just a civil service type of work?
it is civil service, yeah.
Ah,
So
and that's
I'm
also
gonna work
mandatory?
in a library.
That's
Yeah,
also mandatory.
it is.
Wow.
If you don't pick each fucking.
Is it
I'm
some?
sorry. Can I curse on this?
For sure.
Yeah. If I don't pick either one of those, I completely don't do anything.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna have to go to jail for like 3 months.
That's funny.
Actually not jail. They're gonna put like a tracing device on you, and they're gonna tell you exactly what to do.
So
on
you
each
would have
day.
a criminal record then?
No, they don't
No?
put it on criminal record, so it doesn't really affect your life.
Oh.
But it's still quite harsh.
In what way? Did you just need to be tracked for 3
Because
months?
you don't have
Come on.
freedom at all for 3 months.
You're-
They don't just track you. They're gonna visit you whenever they want in your own home. They're gonna tell you where to be.
So
during
and if you
days.
don't fulfill any duties regarding that, you get more punishment or what? Let's say you are not at home when you should be at home. It means you get some
Then I think you get
further.
a few warnings before they actually send you to jail,
Ah,
and then you have to spend the rest of the time in jail.
you mean for the 3 months?
Yeah,
So it doesn't get extended.
I don't think so. At least, I think it's 3 months. I'm not sure.
So what's the situation now? You are in Latvia, but officially you are.
My work starts next month, so
So you have finished the 1 month
training. Yeah, and
And how was that? What did you do at the training?
it was just a bunch of they taught us a lot about like military service and defending your country and stuff like that. I got a
Wait a second.
first aid card.
The year is related to the option of whether you go 6 months to the military service or you go for 12 months to the civil service, right?
What?
I mean, you went for the option of having 1 year service at some civil institution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that mandatory service is related to the mandatory military service, in the sense
No.
that even if you go for the 1 year option at a civil institution, you need to be at least educated about the military.
A little bit, yeah, because like what they teach in the training camp is like it wasn't much like how do you say it? It wasn't biased. Like they didn't tell us that military is a good thing or military is a bad thing. They didn't tell us that. They like it was just basically telling us about history and telling us about what happens if the country goes to war and stuff like that. Also, I chose we got to choose like kind of what they tell us, kind of what kind of courses we take, and like during the training, and I picked what's it called, violence preventing violence, something like that.
Right.
And it was actually quite interesting. We talked a lot about like why violence happens and how do you prevent it from happening and what do you do when violence happens. So it was alright.
Aren't all the answers to these questions just another form of violence?
No.
Seems to me, how do you prevent violence? By threatening with violence.
No.
Yeah.
That's the bad way.
What's the good way?
The good way is to just stand your ground and
Be violent.
be violent less, like Gandhi. That's the example we were given. But yeah, it wasn't.
Seems like a pacifist approach.
It is quite pacifistic, but it was mostly about like, what do you do before to completely like prevent violence from happening in the first place. It was mostly about that. And yeah.
Just don't piss anybody off.
No,
right?
the main idea, like if I had to put it in one sentence, is that a person who is well is not violent. That's like the main idea of the things that we were.
So it sounds almost philosophical.
It was quite philosophical.
And does that mean that everybody in Finland goes through either this training or the 6 months?
Every man.
Oh, every man.
Women don't have to do it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's quite equal.
And how long is this going on in Finland? Has been
since like the beginning of. Actually, I'm not sure. I think it's
not a modern day phenomenon. It's already been.
No.
For a while, right?
It was on somewhere around the 19th century. I think it got like mandatory. I'm not sure.
But since when is Finland an affluent country? It's not that long, right?
A what?
An affluent, wealthy country. It's not that long, right?
Yeah. I'm not very good at history. I wasn't very interested in history in school, so.
Wasn't it in the training?
Not sure. No, we didn't talk about the wealth of Finland.
Because
really.
What's the story?
I was sleeping and playing on my phone during the training because they didn't care if you listen or not. And I wasn't very interested in.
So maybe if you would have slept through the violence part, you would have become violent nevertheless.
No. No. But yeah, it wasn't interesting. Well, some of it was interesting, but mostly the idea of that, like being forced to listen to somebody for this, for this.
Well, technically, you weren't really forced. I mean, you had still the option of having 3 months the jail or no.
That it's a crime. It's illegal to.
Well, come
Okay.
on, man. You can take it. You're a grown up.
You are.
You can
kind
take
of
some 3
forced.
months GPS tracking.
Yeah, but it's a punishment. So you are forced, or you're gonna be punished. So
It's a mild form of punishment. It's sort of a mild form of punishment.
Still a punishment.
It's a slap on the wrists, isn't it?
you should come to Finland and try
It sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like a fun place, unless it's too cold too much of the time. Other than that, it seems you are almost like in a social utopia.
At the moment we are, but
Because you have also
Finland has quite a lot of debt. So
free
it's not-
higher education, right?
yeah.
Because I've had guests here that say specifically they just go to Finland just because for the free education.
Yeah.
So you're in a pretty good place. It seems to me that what was at one point Nokia was the biggest company, right?
Hmm.
What's now the biggest company?
I have no clue.
Guess,
Probably
just
like
guess.
Kone or something, the company that makes elevators.
Really?
Yeah, it's really big, but I have no idea. There are some.
You have some kind of confectionery as well, right? Fazer.
What? Yeah. Yeah,
I
but
guess that's the biggest one.
probably not. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into that.
Because they are even in the Baltics.
Yeah, I know.
All
I
over.
noticed. I haven't looked into that at all.
Because other than, I mean, it used to be the time when everybody had a Nokia, so everybody knew something about Finland.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, other than Fazer chocolate or all those other goods they produce, if you would have asked me name other Finnish company, no clue.
Yeah.
No clue. I know you have a really affluent economy.
Not really. It's
Well,
it's
but
getting worse.
Look at you. I mean, you finished
Yeah,
high
it is-
school.
It is better than better than in Baltics, for example, but it's not sustainable at all. Because
Do you think so?
yeah,
It probably is sustainable.
because Finland doesn't, from my understanding, Finland doesn't have much to offer, like to the rest of the world. So it's hard to like keep up that kind of economy without having anything to offer.
If you produce enough for yourselves, you don't really need to export anything.
We really don't produce enough, I think.
You probably eat your own food most of the time.
Not
probably-
really. We get a lot of food from abroad.
Like, for instance,
Like, for instance, the only Finnish foods that I eat are probably like cucumbers and salads and stuff like that. I think most of it is probably made abroad.
what?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into that either.
Because you probably have.
I-
Finland definitely has to have a big dairy industry. All the northern countries should have a big dairy meat industry. Probably some chicken industry as well. I'm not sure about fishing. What the situation about that? But other than that, seems to me you should have all. Maybe you even have some clothing industry. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
You should
haven't
you,
looked
you
into
should
that.
produce some first. I would imagine.
Yeah,
In
but
those
the thing
climates-
is, it's way more expensive to produce in Finland than to produce somewhere else and then ship it.
You
back to
mean
Finland.
other than foodstuffs? Because foodstuffs are
Food
mostly
stuff as well.
local. Foodstuffs are mostly local. I mean, you probably have some imports when it comes to those global brands, but most of the time people in countries use local dairy, local meat,
Mhm.
or at least regional meat. Because sometimes if you have the border closer to any national center you just get from abroad, but just because it's closer. Let's say people, sometimes dairy farmers, sometimes in Latvia, they sell their dairy, let's say milk, to Lithuanian some companies. They just are closer. So they drive across the border, take what they need, and drive back to I don't know where. So yeah, that's how it goes around here, man. What's the situation for you when you look at what's the neighboring country? Sweden for you? Sweden and Russia, right?
Yeah, Sweden and Russia.
Yeah.
I guess
and Finnish people don't like to be called Scandinavian, right?
I think they do.
At least once Finnish dude told me, don't call Finnish people Scandinavian.
I don't know what that was about, but I haven't heard of anybody being like defensive about it. And I don't care at all.
Well, I suppose, I mean, it's not really meant to be insulting either way.
Yeah.
For sure. So what's the...
Yeah, but if you don't like it, then you take it as an insult, don't you?
Well, usually it's just people look at the map, see the tiger thing. All right, that's Norway, Sweden, and Finland. That's it. All of them people, Scandinavians, whatever. Some former Vikings, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the situation for you and let's say Finnish people and Swedish people? Do you have any similarities?
I think we do. I think we're quite similar. Like,
because I would take
they have a lot more immigrants.
I would take you
than us.
and put you either in Sweden and Germany, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm actually myself. I'm mostly Hungarian.
What?
Yeah.
Your ancestry is in Hungary?
Yeah. Both my dad and my mom are Hungarian. My dad's family is completely Hungarian. My mom's family is... my mom's dad is Hungarian. No, mom is Hungarian.
Are any of them at least similarly blonde?
Not really. I don't know where I got this from.
Yeah, man. It seems that's just the specific of the region, isn't it?
It is.
Some mutation.
Yeah.
Born in the cold.
No,
came out blonde.
It came from somewhere, for sure, but I'm not sure who I got it from. I think my uncle, one of my uncles was kind of like very blonde when he was young, but now he's brown as well. So I don't know, man. And my brother is the same too. He has blonde hair, he has blue eyes. He's very white.
So either the region or the food. No other options.
Yeah.
No other options.
Probably the food. And the steroids that they put in the food nowadays. What
kind of steroids? You're Finland, man. You're probably all organic.
Nah.
Well, a second. Doesn't Finland have also a nice healthcare system?
Yeah, it's mainly free. Like, you can't pay for it if you want. You'll get faster service, probably better service, but it's mainly free.
That's what I'm saying. I think you just have less poisoned food than everybody else. You have more social benefits than everybody else. Or does Sweden have more?
I think it's like about the same.
Really?
And apparently it's the same in like Netherlands as well.
Here's my stereotype of Europeans. I think at least that's what I thought, but then the one of the previous podcast guests diminished one of my stereotypes regarding Belgium. But I still have those stereotypes about Dutch, Finnish, and Swedish people, that they are just living in a nice, cozy environment all the time, in an economic sense, because they are the elite of I would say the global economy. And when if you are born in the Netherlands, Finland, Sweden, and probably nowadays even Norway, but I'm not sure, then you are just, you know, you have won the lottery in a way.
Pretty much. In a way, yeah.
I'm just wondering why you guys are not traveling that much, because usually in Europe,
Because
I think
people are scared.
biggest-
It's so safe in Finland. It's so safe to live in Finland that it's hard to like get away from that safeness, get out of your comfort zone. When the way, from my understanding, when Finnish people travel, they like they spend a lot of money on it. They make sure that everything goes to plan, pretty much. So there's no surprises and everything's like perfect and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of the image that I have of Finnish people traveling.
Do they travel a lot? Or maybe they just travel to some warm Mediterranean places.
They travel. I think most families travel. Like you rarely come across someone who hasn't been to Tallinn at least. 'Cause they got
Isn't that the place to just go get drunk?
Yeah, it is. But it's still traveling in a sense.
Sure, it's just alcoholic migration.
Yeah, alcoholic migration. But yeah, they do travel, just in a safe way, not in a spontaneous way like I do, or I did.
So that's the Hungarian in you, right?
Yeah, probably.
Just urging you to go and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So where have you been elsewhere? You mentioned Tallinn, you mentioned now Riga.
Yeah, I've been to
Germany.
I've been to Germany, I've been to Hungary, I've been to France, I've been to Switzerland, but it was just we drove from Switzerland to the Alps on the French side.
Mm-hmm.
Where else? Italy. I can't figure out. Yeah, I think that's it.
So where was your longest stay?
My longest stay was probably like 2 weeks in Hungary, I think. Yeah. No, I've been to Ireland as well, but I was quite small, so I don't remember. I don't remember all that much from it. But yeah, I've never been outside Europe. I wanna do it, like, in the near years.
To be honest, if you mentioned that you have been in Hungary, my guess would be that would almost count as being outside of Europe, in a way.
Why?
I just think that that's a bit of a different culture. At least it should be.
It's actually quite similar to the Baltic culture.
Tell me.
Like, it's a lot more. Well, at least compared to Finland, it's a lot more like poor and kind of chaotic, the culture in Hungary.
Chaotic, that's for sure. Everything
Just like
that's in
in
Eastern
here.
Europe, for sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Latvia or Lithuania, but in a more loud way. They're a lot more loud there, I think.
Just by speaking and acting?
Yeah, they were a lot more expressive, I think.
That's what I mean. I think they have the influence from even more from the eastern and southern eastern regions of the world. So I think they are more verbal, more physical many times when it comes to either just some conflicts or just basic life, everyday life. That's what I think. I mean, if you say you went to Hungary, it sounds to me you might as well go to some place in Turkey.
Yeah, but it's still very far from, like, let's say, Asia. It's nothing like what I've seen.
Well, look,
videos from Asia.
Look, Indians are in Asia, and China is in Asia. So both of them are separate cultures.
Yeah, but they're very chaotic, both.
In what way?
Because they're in a billion people way. In a billion people way in each country.
Well, it's not that chaotic as in just undeveloped. you have you have a structure. It's just so primitive that you might feel that it's really just chaotic simply because you are used to an advanced, sophisticated system.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sure, it's different, but
I would say Africa is the most chaotic place you could go, and afterwards it's just probably south and southeast region of the world, from Europe's perspective, southeast region. That should be the most chaotic. And then Eastern European, we have some chaos when it comes to some establishing some systematic issues, but other than that, we have internet, so all is good in a way. We're not that stupid, right? I mean, imagine those places nowadays that still don't have internet. They're just living in some, I don't know which century. It's definitely not the 21st.
There are places in Finland where you don't have internet. In the north.
And you probably don't have many people there, huh?
Nope.
Yeah.
We don't.
Because what's it like to actually be in Finland? Do you feel that you are in a, let's say, in one country, or you know that if you would go to a certain region of the country, you wouldn't even understand the people there, or anything similar?
No, I feel like I'm in one country. It's
so no big dialect differences or anything like that?
No.
Do you have any
I don't know what the people are called, but there's like a group of people in the way north in Finland. We call them saamelaiset, and they have like their own language or something. I'm not even sure, and they're like really, really primitive. So in a way, there's
you mean
another
like the
culture
Eskimos?
there.
You mean like Eskimo primitive, or
Pretty much Eskimo primitive. And I guess you could say those people are.
Did you get them the message that they can actually come and live in Helsinki for free if they look for work?
Yeah, I think. Actually,
do they know that?
I don't know if they know that, but it seems like from my understanding, they want to be independent and they want to be like separate from the rest of the world. But
doesn't sound smart.
Yeah, because we got social benefits. I know, right?
Well, I mean, you have the infrastructure to actually, because they then probably don't live so long lives as well.
Yeah, but I mean, if in their culture that's the best way of life for them. So why would they give it up? You know what I mean? You know better. You know better. No, it doesn't matter what I.
You make a point as if you would believe in it yourself.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well, I do believe in the point that they believe that their way of life.
And I'm telling you, you know better. So quit it with those arguments.
No, I'm not lying, dude. If they actually thought that it's better in the south, then they would have changed their ways already. They would have.
Yeah, sure.
Because it doesn't make sense. Why else would they?
Now I got you to tell the truth. It doesn't make sense.
I know
sure.
it. No, if they knew that it's better here, then it doesn't make sense to still live up there.
And it's probably the proper cause, ignorance, just pure ignorance.
Possibly, could just be the cultural beliefs.
Because imagine you would tell an Hungarian, well, yeah, you can live in Finland, as you can get this kind of benefit and that kind of benefit, but no, it's better to live in Hungary. What?
No, you wouldn't tell them, even if you told them that it's better to live in Finland, like a proper
you don't even
Hungarian
really need
farmer.
to say that it's better. You just state the facts about Finnish benefits, and then actually, what's the situation with immigrants for you guys? Because I know Sweden has a lot of immigrants, right?
We don't have as many. We don't have nearly as many as Sweden does.
Because you have more strict rules or something like that?
No, I think we just didn't accept as many. So in a way, we have more strict rules. But it's not fine. There's like no problem with the immigrants in Finland. the way that there is with Swedish immigrants, right? So it's fine. Immigrants are fine in Finland, I think.
Because you are more
Maybe just
more cautious. You're more cautious. You
Could
don't
be.
let anybody in.
I don't know. Maybe just we just get the calm ones. We got the good ones.
But
They
do you,
got the
but do you
bad ones.
have any migration flows?
What?
Migration flows. Do you have any? Let's say, in the past 5 years, there was definitely several waves of migrants in Europe.
Yeah.
Most of them got into either Germany or I think Sweden.
Yeah.
So
They did.
during those years, did
We
Finland?
did accept more than what was like the limit that
Ah,
Finland was supposed to have when it comes to immigrants.
all
We
right.
did accept more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. There are probably like over 100,000 immigrants in Finland right now, I think.
And how many Finns are in Finland?
It's like 5.5 million, something like that. Some 5 or 6 million, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds decent.
we have immigrants. Yeah, especially in Helsinki, there are parts where there are a lot of immigrants, but I haven't at least heard that they cause any trouble like they cause in Sweden.
You have heard that they caused some trouble in Sweden?
Yeah. They have these areas, right? At least I've heard that they have these areas where they won't, where nobody goes without what's it called, the police.
Seems to me that's a statement everybody has, because I've heard that same statement for Germany. But
Have you?
yeah, but I'm not sure whether or not that's true or is just an exaggeration for
Yeah.
journalistic purposes.
That's kind of the same mentality I had when I first heard that they have these zones where you can't go without police with you. But yeah, but I looked up a video of like somebody finding out if this was actually true, and apparently they got like when they went into an area like that to film, they got like thrown. The immigrants, they threw rocks at them and something like that, threatened them. But maybe it's just because they had a whole film crew there. Maybe if you go there as a normal human being, an average person, they won't do anything. So I don't know. I don't really know what the situation there is there, but I haven't heard that there's anything like that in Finland. So I'm kind of just assuming that it's better in Finland. Than
Are you following the Finnish news?
Not really.
That's what I thought. You are more concerned about your topics, right? It's not that you would be inclined to see, let's say, what's going on all over the place. You just have your news feed, your personal news feed.
Yeah, kind of, but I
So
feel like I would have heard it more if there was more to talk about in Finland.
You probably have some news that would be relatable to the whole country, but I would imagine that in Finland you have even regional
Yeah, we do.
news considerably in a considerable amount. That should be the case, because at least I know in Germany that's definitely the case. That you have regional cultures developing by the local media. That's for sure. And I think in Sweden as well. I think one Swedish guy told me something similar. That's what I'm thinking, like that.
Yeah.
We left out the interesting topic of gaming. You mentioned that you
I don't mind.
game. No, I'm interested whether or not you actually do game almost professionally or essentially just a hobby.
It's definitely, well, it's been an addiction. I actually deleted all
So-
my games 2 weeks ago.
So what
Because-
do you call addiction?
As in, when I play games, I don't feel like doing anything else because then everything else is boring.
Well, but most of the time it is.
Yeah, but on a whole new level of boring. Like,
well, I mean, physically, you still have to need to have some sleep, some food.
Yeah,
so
I don't do that when I.
You cannot.
game.
Yeah, but you cannot change that. You cannot change your physiology, no matter how you consider yourself addicted to anything. You still need. At one point, you will just sleep. For instance, it's just that you cannot be so enthralled with some games that you just don't sleep for 1 week. It's impossible.
It is impossible, but we're not talking about
so you're
like
not
completely
addicted,
living
you're
it
safe.
out.
You're safe. You're not addicted.
No, that's not what addiction is.
It is.
It's when it gets in the way of your health, and it has got in the way of my health.
In what way?
As in, I don't eat enough, I don't sleep enough when I play games, and I don't exercise.
Well, look, but that's the same point.
Because I prioritize the gaming.
All right,
over.
priorities is just another level. But when you have, let's say, a sleep deficit, at one point it will catch up and you will sleep longer. Just a matter of fact, man. What you're worried about? I don't understand. Install back your games, dude.
No, it's not healthy at all. Yeah, like if I can't stop eating for a while. I mean, yeah.
But you at one point feel the urge to eat.
Yeah,
so
I will.
Then eat. That's it.
The point
so
where
silly,
I feel that,
so silly.
Well,
Samuli, so silly.
No, listen.
I hope you have made your backups for your games.
Listen, no, I don't care about games anymore. What was I about to say? Yeah.
You wanted to make a major point.
Games, the point where I actually feel the urge to eat something is like it's too late at that point. Like if I eat once every 8 hours, it's not enough to stay healthy.
Where did you read that?
It can't be. It's impossible.
So you are all of a sudden a professor in medicine and biology?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But there's just... You can't go 8 hours without eating and like right before the 8 hours is over still have energy to do things.
You can. That's called intermittent fasting, dude.
Yeah, but
that's a special,
if you do that for 15 years in a row,
it's even a special... Well, considering the fact that you have even professional athletes doing that for more than 20 years, I wouldn't be so sure.
No, they don't do it. They don't do it continuously. They
do. There are people in the world. There are people in the world who eat only once a day for many, many years, and they do it specifically to actually enhance their health. And the rationale behind it is that every time you eat something, your endocrine system, your digestive system is being stimulated. So every time you eat something, you stimulate your system. And at one point, it might be the case that by eating too often, you overstimulate. You even get some injuries in your digestive system, your endocrine system. And the rationale behind it, the intermittent fasting, is actually to decrease inflammation in your body. So you eat as much as you want, anything you want, but you eat it rarely. Let's say in a day, in a 24-hour period, you eat for one time, but of course then you eat lots of calories, and you eat, let's say, for half an hour, as much as it takes you, but you still eat once, and then you let your body digest, assimilate, and then everything else, all the processes to take place.
Yeah, but
so
even if I did that,
it's called the warrior diet. It's called the warrior diet. At least one form is called the warrior diet. So you can have your own Samuli diet, eating once every 8 hours.
Even if I ate once a day,
yeah,
I wouldn't eat enough for it to be enough for the day when I'm gaming.
That's not true.
Well,
you know deep down it's not true, Samuli. Why are you lying to us both now? It has
been true. I am way too skinny to be healthy right now.
Well, what's your weight?
My weight is like 67 kilograms and I'm 185.
Dude, I went to track and field where my well, not colleague, but a friend of mine, I was always at around 75 kilograms, and he was almost all of the time 65.
Mm-hmm.
And he was participating in the same disciplines as I was, without a problem.
Still.
So no, your weight isn't problematic at all.
It is in my eyes, because I know for a fact that if through my whole life I would have eaten like properly, if I had eaten like 3,000 calories a day, I would have a lot more muscle mass right now. I would weigh way over 70 easily. I know, because fucking my brother does it.
Yeah, but where do you get those insecurities that you are too lightweight? It's not true.
No, I'm
Many
not worried
people
about what if other people think I'm too skinny or not. I'm worried about being so skinny that it's gonna cause health problems. Like,
But what kind of health problems are relatable to being skinny? Tell me,
I
master.
don't know, like osteoporosis and stuff, where your bones are too weak.
Just don't drink milk.
In your later.
Just don't drink milk. That's
a
a hazard.
I don't drink milk.
Other than that, you're fine. Or maybe cheese. Or maybe cheese is problematic. But other than that, cottage cheese, go for it.
Nah.
Yeah, man.
Besides,
I'm telling you.
I'm actually trying to be vegan. That's my.
In your climate, why would you? That's just too burdensome.
No, veganism.
In your climate,
there's no reason to eat meat and dairy products in today's world.
Well, look at it this way: veganism is just a philosophy and an ideology. It's not related to any health.
It is.
Not really.
There is a lot of research about the health benefits of veganism, and there's
vegetarianism. Yes, not about veganism.
No, also veganism.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, you can look it up.
Well, no, look at it this way. Of course, you can find for every point some substantiating research.
Yes.
But then again, you want to know how credible the research is.
Yes.
And when you speak about credible research, not really, dude. Not really. Because for research,
you haven't looked it up.
No, I have looked it up for the past probably 10 years.
What health benefits of veganism?
Yes, and raw foodism, and vegetarianism, and ovo-lacto-vegetarianism, and then again, I didn't do the ones who actually don't eat anything, but other than that, yeah, fruitarianism, yeah,
I don't know what that is.
Just eating fruits, nothing more.
But yeah, even if there were no health benefits, I would still want to be vegan just because of the fucking animal agriculture, how much damage it is doing to our planet.
Here's the funny point: if you consider the biomass and the living organism mass that's being killed by modern day food production, then actually vegetarianism and veganism kills more animals.
How come?
In a way that when you need to, let's say, farm big amounts of, well, either grain or any other type of product that is in the food supply, or let's say oats or something like that, a combine actually processes them when they harvest them. It's rarely the case that for modern day purposes people go and pick something up by hand. It's most of the time that a tractor, a combine or something like that goes and farms them. And the simple matter is that on a, let's say, what's it called, a hectare on a hectare, which is what, 10,000 square meters, around, I think 10,000 square meters, right?
Around.
I think a hectare was 10,000 square meters.
It is 10,000, yeah.
Yeah. So on a 10,000 square meter field, you have on average probably like 10 rabbit families, at least 100 mice families, and stuff like that. Frogs, what's it called? Those moles, all different worms, stuff like that. So the biomass, when you combine them and you actually kill them by harvesting them, in total, pretty much makes it up, because you have to consider globally grain and similar products are on a much bigger territory than cattle, for instance.
But you do realize that most of the plants that are harvested for animals to eat, so they can grow and
when it comes
we can eat
to
meat.
grains, for sure.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense at all.
No, look,
because we have to harvest more plants.
When you speak about those calculations, then I probably would suggest to just look into the paleo sector of things, because they actually do the math most of everybody else, and they actually calculate regarding what's it cost economically and mathematically, what's the food output for, let's say, using the grain for animals, using the grain for people, and they make the math. And additionally, all anthropologists all over the world have yet to find any culture that doesn't consume animal products. In a sense that and the microbiologists as well. No microbiologist, as far as I'm concerned, has ever stated that you can nourish the cell effectively by just plant products. It's an ideological point in the way that people are more closer to, let's say, other primates, and most of the time primates are either vegetarian or just small time beers so vegetarians and carnivores and omnivores, right? That only small time omnivores, right? But again, I mean, you have probably some research to find for all of those points, but when it comes to like credible decade-long research, it gets really slim, and that's the biggest issue for, I think, people in the the China study. Those I think they had 2 or 3 American authors who did, quote unquote, the China study, where they basically used statistics when it comes to regional people living in China and their health statistics, let's say the cancer rates, heart disease rates, or whatever. So their conclusion was that consuming animal protein decreases if you don't consume animal proteins, you decrease the risk of having any of those cardiovascular diseases and stuff like that. And then they got debunked just left and right, and it was a little bit of not an embarrassment, but it was still kind of a blow to them, because they were actually pretty popular. They were becoming quite popular, and that's why I say that the paleo field is probably the most interesting, or could be the most interesting for your, at least, the calculations, just because they do. I mean, when you probably could search paleo calculations or whatever, it just gets a little tricky, because that's the biggest point they make in all ideological fields, that, oh, look, economically speaking, the impact is like this and this, black and white, whereas it's a little bit more in depth, right? The point, and that's why I say that veganism most of the time is ideologic, because it sounds really good, ethical, to have actually consideration to other living beings. But then again, you have those microbiologists that say, well, no, living beings consume living beings. That's the problem of the whole food chain. There is no dead matter who could sustain living matter, right? So it's just that, yes, we can actually have, let's say, more refined ways of harvesting and producing food. That's a modern day theory that might be valuable, simply because we are still in a sort of 19th, 20th century style of farming, which is not that bad compared to, 300 years ago. But still, it might be the case that nowadays in the 21st century, you can actually have, some crickets for your protein or whatever. I'm not sure. But still, you can have many improvements in modern day manufacturing and food producing. You don't need to, let's say, torture animals nowadays with antibiotics and with those slaughterhouses and those farming houses where they just live unnatural for their whole life. That's for sure. But again, this goes back. Oh, what is the ideological thought? What is the philosophical, ethical consideration when it comes to those nutritional aspects? Yeah, man, paleo does definitely the calculations for that one. And other than that, there's no real, let's say, as far as I know, current research. Most of the research when it comes to nutrition is mostly based on some statistical data from past decades, and some authors just take them and collect them. And that's why I say about the China study that they made a big hype, and then afterwards they got quite blown with well, I suppose you could call it other facts, which they didn't. Oh, you know what the most famous was? What's it called? The 5 Nation study. I think if you Google 5 Nation study or something like that, it was one of the most famous ones that actually showed on a graph that the countries that consume less animal foods are the healthiest ones, and the biggest faux pas for them was that actually the available data the author could have used was for around 20 countries. And then everybody just said, well, if you have considered if you have put those 20 countries in that graph, then the graph would just look like all over the place. There's no real correlation to anything. So the biggest critique for that was just that the author basically just chose which countries he will take for the graph, and he chose those countries that make a interesting graph to just make a point. Because I mean, I'm not sure whether or not you have heard of Latvia has, as far as I know, a famous microbiologist, Kirchensteins. He was in the 30s, 20th century 30s, and he wrote books as well. And even then, he mentioned several aspects of, because actually vegetarianism got most popular with Kellogg. You know that brand nowadays, Kellogg's.
Yeah, I know
right.
that one.
There were 2 brothers, and one brother had a what's it called, a sanitarium, or something like that. And so the one brother served his patients only cereals, and it was meant to actually decrease their, well, not like decrease their energy, but still to have them a little bit low key.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, when they got into business, they just split. I'm not sure why, but they split. Because the other brother wasn't okay with that route. But now afterwards, it just got to the point where they sold sugar-coated cereal.
Yeah.
Those famous cornflakes. I think those were the first ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they sold like hot cakes in those days. So yeah, that is the 10-minute version of the 20th century veganism, vegetarianism, as far as I know. So if you are looking to get into veganism, I suggest you first
I've already been vegan.
So either way, you might as well just look into paleo research as well, and then just to compare, not to make any conclusions, just to compare them. Whether or not the references are the same, and whether or not the references are as credible for one as to the other, because that's the real issue most of the time.
Yeah, but the way I see it, it just seems completely unnecessary to eat dairy products or meat products in today's world. But yeah, I should do my research. You're right about that. But yeah.
Well, you can do your research yourself. I mean, you can just try and see. It just depends on you. Everybody will say that at the end of the day, you need to decide what feels best for you in a physical, mental, psychological, emotional way.
Yeah, but I can try it myself and see what the health effects are. But
just make sure you write down. Just make sure you write it down, because you will forget otherwise.
But if I can't really find out myself what the environmental effects are on a global scale,
Well, there is no real global scale if you consider the fact that we have separate economic channels. I mean, look at it this way. If you consider the most basic food commodities, you have at the most 5 big companies controlling the distribution channels, which is actually not that much, of course, but then again, not that comprehensive, because 2/3 of the whole world don't use them, simply because they don't have either the need or the options, or the economic options to actually benefit from them.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the economical point. I'm talking about the environmental point, where, like, what's the best way for us to produce food, like, to damage the planet as little as possible? That's what I'm really talking about.
Technically speaking, at least in Europe, it's the best that the world has ever seen. We are the most effective environment protectors there have been in any time. That doesn't mean it's the
best we could be.
Technically, of course. I mean, technically, you could say everybody could drive an electric car nowadays. There's no need for gasoline or diesel or any oil-based fuel. But then again, economically speaking, no, it's not really that case. I mean,
it might not be realistic, but still, if there is a best way, why would you not try your best to go for that?
It depends on the economic considerations. That's it. Once the economics are in place, then the switch to any less harming methods is just inevitable. But till then, it's just a matter of counting just the dollars, euros.
Yeah.
So that's
I know that, like, the change is very unlikely and it's very hard.
Well, technically it's inevitable. It's just a matter of time. I mean, look at it this way.
Assuming that we're someday gonna be in a place where everything's so fine that all we can do is change for the better, right?
Well, change is already happening in a way.
It is.
Look at it this way.
Is it happening for the better, or is it just
for us or for the whole world?
For the whole world.
Well, again, for the whole world, nothing is really whole. So it seems to me that the only horizon we can see at is our own region, which would be Europe. And for Europe, it's definitely getting better.
We could make it whole.
Because that's definitely an idealistic perception.
It is.
But in the 21st century, it's still not technically possible. It's probably in the 22nd century possible. Because look at it this way. We are in at the beginning of the 21st century, and 2 centuries ago, 2 or 3 generations ago, people didn't really live like this in any way. Just about in any way, they didn't live like we do. There's probably no real comparison between, let's say, 19th century and 21st century, other than perhaps the big aristocracies in Europe. Nowadays we could say we live better than the aristocracies of 19th century Europe, but when it comes to the general public, it's just probably no comparison whatsoever. It's just totally night and day comparison. Right, so it's difficult to imagine, but in the 21st century it will still be the case, not perhaps in Europe anymore, but still for the 2/3 of the global world. That's for sure. Because I did the previous to the last one podcast with a Vietnamese friend of mine, and we talked about what's the situation in Vietnam, and she told me that basically all the food production in Vietnam has become so polluted that many times even locals cannot use their own products simply because they either have some contaminants or anything similar that actually prohibits them of using their own foodstuff, not imported foodstuffs. And the reason why, at least that's what was her guess, the reason is just people are somehow or another not humane, if you catch my drift, in a way that they don't really go into depth when it comes to those actions. They just let's say pour some toxins into the river and don't really bother with
If it makes you more money, costs you less money.
somewhat around that. And see, that's the biggest part that Europe has achieved, that we don't really do that. We don't cultivate that culture that much, whereas 2/3 of the world still live like that. Well, they still live like the 19th century description of Karl Marx of the capitalistic society. And that's the biggest part of let's say global what's it called, quality of life talks, simply because you have those differences in the quality of research and economic availability all over Europe and all over the place otherwhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the 22nd, probably in the 22nd. But then Finland needs to bring their system to the whole world.
Finland's system isn't very sustainable, as I said. We're getting more debt every single year.
Do you mean like government debt?
Yeah, national debt.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am. It's not.
But don't you have big financial institutions as well? I mean, private, because Sweden has at least some big financial corporations, right? But doesn't Finland have them as well?
I don't know.
I would imagine.
I don't know, but there's like what I've seen the statistics. It seems like the debt grows every single year, and like we're simply just trying to slow it down. But yeah, it's not ideal. It's not. We're not heading in a better direction.
All right, but you've been to Germany, you've been to Hungary, you've been to Italy,
Yeah.
you've been to all of those places. Where have you seen less of a government debt?
I don't know.
Tu mums uz pusstundu varēs iziet, vai mēs tev tā vēl parunāsim kādu brītiņu?
Labi, es saprotu, ka maize nav.
Varētu būt. Man nav.
Vairāk neko nevajag.
Nezinu, nu tu vari nopirkt pie reizes kaut kādu 9% piespiedu.
Un tā pastēti redzam.
Nu, viņai termiņš noteikti noticējis, bet ja man prasītu, tad mierīgi var ēst.
Un tad es viņu no rīt brauks nesēdīšu.
Mierīgi.
Bet tā maizes nopērk, ja?
Labi. Un saku, ja tu uz Rimījies,
Jā.
nu jā, nu tad tu vari apstīties tur, teiksim, bet nevis to, kas ir vienkārši, es nezinu, kā tādos maziņos 200 gramu iepakojumos, bet to graudēno biespienu, kurš ir, teiksim, 9% Rimī biespiens, viņš tādā kastītajā vāciņa, tā kā ir. Nu, oranžā krāsā, tu atpazīsi. Nē, cits nekas nenāk, prātā.
Tomāts nevajag?
Nē, tomāti ir lejā, leduskapī. So yeah, about the Finnish financial institutions. I guess you should have, because you've been to Hungary, Germany, Italy. Nowhere is the government debt smaller than in Finland, probably, percentage-wise.
What do you mean?
I mean, all countries are in debt.
Yeah, I know. All countries are in debt.
And
but
when you look into it, it seems that they are in debt with each other.
yeah.
So nobody's
But
really
I guess it's
in
about,
debt.
like-
Nobody's really in debt. It's just that they make up those numbers.
Yes, but like
So it seems to me that you can sustain that system by just continuing to make up those numbers.
well, what if the numbers get too big?
It's impossible. It's
Is
just impossible.
Is it?
Well, can you write? If I would give you a blank page and give you a pen, could you write on that page the number 1 million?
Yeah.
So could you? And then another request: can you write the number underneath it 1 billion?
But can you?
And afterwards, can you write 3 additional zeros to that number as well?
But if you
Can
just
you?
make up, yes, you can. But
And
if you
afterwards, can you make
if you
3
just
other
make up
additional numbers?
money,
Yeah,
isn't that how inflation happens?
that's a theoretical model, but it's never been proven right. I mean, most of the time people mention Germany in before the
Yeah.
Second World War, after the Versailles Treaty.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, you consider the fact that they had still currency that needed to be printed. They didn't have any digital economy whatsoever. So, I mean, that's the biggest example that usually 20th century economists mention, but it hasn't been substantiated that much. It's just when you talk about political economy, you can definitely say that, yeah, if you print money, everything will get more expensive because the purchasing power of money decreases. But it's a theoretical model. It has never been substantiated in real life. I mean, the closest example is Nazi Germany in the early 20th century and Zimbabwe in 2008 or 2009. And both of them are not like sufficiently sophisticated examples. They are not as well researched as they should be to actually state the claim. So it's still a relatively theoretical model.
You're right.
And the reason why it is like that simply because the whole world runs on just made up numbers. It's no real backing for anything anymore. So and you don't see hyperinflation in America. You don't see hyperinflation in Germany. You don't see hyperinflation basically anywhere where you have relatively stable economic relations. Because to have a hyperinflation economically, you would need to have a destabilized political and social structure, which is of course many African countries, that's for sure. Germany after the First World War for sure, but nowadays on the beginning of the 21st century, not really. So I would go on to say and state that you can definitely do that kind of thing ad infinitum.
I don't know. I can't really form an opinion just out of what you're saying because I'm so uneducated in pretty much everything that we've talked about. So yeah, that's all I can really say.
What?
Like if I were to form a proper opinion about these things, I want to research it first. I want to research it properly, and I don't want to just trust in your word over somebody else's word.
No, that's fine by me.
So yeah, I can't really say anything to that.
Yeah, well then just take it as a what's it called, a research point or a somewhat of a initial stage for further research. And that's it.
Yeah, just take it for a possibility, one point of view.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Because that's what mostly economics is, just points of view. There's no real substantiating reality when it comes to economic research whatsoever. And that's why the inflation theory is quite interesting. Simply because if everything we do in economics is actually based on just make-believe, so why wouldn't we do the make-believe that actually benefits the most people? That's the philosophical questions when it comes to economic research. And the 21st century somewhat resembles, I would say, the 19th century when it comes to those idealistic viewpoints. Well, if we can actually do more than we are doing right now, why wouldn't we do it if we technically can do it? And so then you have those, because somebody profits from the status quo and the other ones are just ignorant about the status quo, which technically seems correct. I mean, nowadays you still have different social and economic classes in the world, and then it's just a matter of how humane the ruling classes are in a way. Because that's what the Vietnamese friend of mine told, that the Vietnamese people are more, at least in the upper ranks of government, for instance, just corrupt. Everybody knows it's corrupt. Everybody can be paid. Everybody can be bribed, and nobody actually has to follow any rules because it's just a matter of price. And if you do have that kind of system, yeah, you might as well run into different problems, because that was the ideology of many countries in the 20th century. And then you have Finland, which seems to me that they really don't have that kind of
we'll see in
power
like 20
interplay.
years.
Well, do you have, let's say, what are your viewpoints on the Finnish politics? Do you feel that they don't listen to the people and that they're just corrupt psychopaths?
No, they're not. No, they're just. I don't follow politics at all either. So, but yeah, I know for a fact that it's a lot better. It's a lot humane. It's a lot closer to the idea of democracy than what it is in other places in the world.
And it seems to me that you might be just better educated. You are more knowledgeable about those things on a broader spectrum. Let's say you don't have any esoteric classes in society that just only few people are knowledgeable about this topic and that topic. You have a knowledge society in a way, generally speaking. It seems to me like that.
In a way, yeah.
And that seems to be the case also in Sweden and Denmark, probably in Germany as well, that they put a big emphasis on knowledge.
Yeah, too, but
and see,
it's not perfect.
And well, sure, it's not perfect. Nothing is. But then again, when you have, let's say, my viewpoint, my experience from, let's say, the post-Soviet country, you definitely can see just people being concerned about their social reputation and their ego, and that's it. And people who are actually somewhat or another related to decision making, just being concerned about their social status and their ego, right? They are not concerned whether or not this particular decision will have the biggest benefit for the most people. Nothing like that, right? And you still see those kinds of things. So it's just a matter of how knowledgeable a person is, how experienced he is. Because if you live in a bubble and you are growing up just thinking about yourself all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you care if you are in a position of influence? Why would you care about other people? You're not used to that. So that seems to me the one way you Finnish people could actually usurp power in Europe, by just being the prime example.
Could be.
Of having everybody either in the military or civil service.
No, that's not an ideal way. But I know that.
Do you have a plan?
I need to go.
Wait a second, you told me about 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to be there early, so nothing unexpected happens. But plus, I think I'm gonna grab some McDonald's on the way there.
Sure, we can do that. All right, so let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Do you have any concluding remarks? Did we leave anything out? I think we initially we talked about your impressions of Latvia, right?
Yeah.
What your plans are. What else? Your life in Finland.
Life in Finland, veganism, a little bit about video games and stuff like that. I didn't have like any
we definitely
about this podcast, so I don't care really what we talked about. Like
no, I'm just for the sake of wrapping up, whether or not we have any segments that we could emphasize afterwards. I think the video games part was the smallest somehow. All right, so tell me, what's your favorite game for video games? I know that 2 weeks ago you deleted it, but again, man, I'm telling you, just download them back, install them.
Favorite game or favorite point for video games?
What is favorite point?
Favorite point is the fact that it makes me. It's so fun. It's like you don't think about anything else while you play. You're like in this bubble,
All right, but
of
don't
happiness.
don't you feel that video games are actually enhance your cognitive abilities? Because
A little bit.
Because
but
I feel because you
not
feel
too
I've
much.
never met a dumb video game player. I've never met. I mean,
No.
I've met people who play video games and don't bother of other topics. Sure, but when it comes to people who are related to computers and especially your video games, their cognitive abilities are almost all the time top notch.
Maybe. I think it's quite. Maybe it does a little bit, but yeah.
Don't you
it's
feel?
hard to say. I don't.
Don't you feel
like,
that you would be more stupid if you haven't had the opportunity to play
No.
video games?
Not really. No.
Really? So
Not
you
really.
need to find some Finnish dude who
Like,
hasn't played
when I-
video games and compare him to yourself
Yeah.
and see the results, dude. I'm
When
telling you,
when I think about,
Half-Life
like-
or whatever you played has increased your abilities.
No.
For real. Counter-Strike,
When
probably.
I think about like things that like specific things that could have been improved just because of video games, I don't really like. I can't really think of too much. Maybe like I don't know. Maybe in Counter-Strike, like you get kind of the idea of what you're supposed to do. What's the best idea to do in a situation where I don't know.
You have a scenario, you have a problem, you need the resolution, and you need to have the strategy to actually execute it.
Yeah, but
See? And your eye coordination is probably well established because of that.
maybe.
So, yeah, man, I'm telling
But
you.
I don't think
Just
it makes a big difference.
install back the video games.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna reach new levels of happiness without video games. What?
It seems to me that you are attaching to video games some sort of real life experiences that might not be favorable. I mean, video games are just for your training, and that's it.
There'd be more than just for my training in the last years, but yeah. Let's wrap it up. I need to go.
All right, let's finish. So thank you. 1.5 hours, man. Quite
Not
good.
bad.
Quite good. All right.
Thank you.
Bye. That's